Get it kickstarted here. Tonight's going to be a lot of free flow, but the main thing we want to discuss tonight is time. So once again, because we had the topic starter, he's going to take lead and I'm going to bounce off of him. Per the usual.
So I think, as usual, anyone that wants to come into chat, put questions or topics up, or any portion of time that might come into your head, feel free. We will be reading comments as much as we can. Also, disclaimer, as per usual, Raz and I are not professionals. We are not therapists. We have not gone to school for this. We do not have any prior training in taking care of other people's mental health. We are always here with listening ears, but we have to retain our mental space as well. And going forward, just acknowledge that. And if we feel that we can't help you in your situation, we might recommend professional help. Don't be ashamed of that. It's nothing to be ashamed of. But today's topic is time, how time can affect your mental health, how we can use time to positively affect our mental health, but how it can also negatively affect our mental health, and how sometimes it's in our control and sometimes it's not in our control. I think the first starter for me was definitely what I've been having to work on more and more, especially being more introverted person, is taking time alone, which has been an ongoing topic that we've had for the past few weeks, why it's important to take time alone. But since we're on the subject of time, I figure it's easy to start there and kind of refresh on why it's important to take time alone. And if you're extroverted, why it's important to take time to be with people. I actually had this conversation with Pac the other day, because Pac is very extroverted, and so he gains a lot of his energy by spending time with his friends. And if he doesn't have that time, which during this pandemic, I'm sure a lot of people have failed to achieve that personal time with their friends or with the people that are important to them to obtain that energy. So if you're extroverted and you are struggling with finding time with other people, I think there's a few things that I've discovered that have been helpful for me when it comes to my social life and being able to spend time with people that could help plenty of people out as well. Starting with having Discord is a really big one. Being able to Discord chat with your friends, video chat on Discord. When you're playing video games with people, go into Discord and video chat while you're playing the video games. And I just noticed your camera went off.
Yeah,
and
just
so,
randomly turn off. I was like, wait, what?
For me, I've realized, because as I've been gaming recently, like me and Jinx and Stu and Lauren will all be playing Fortnite together or something, and we'll all turn our cameras on. And then you're playing the game, but then you also get to see their facial reactions, and it's almost like they're in the room with you, and it's a lot more present, which, believe it or not, psychologically can give you that energy that you need as an extrovert, because that's what you're thriving off of, is interaction with people. So that's a really good way. Even if you're like watching a movie on Discord or something together, that helps a lot too. But then also, I don't want to say like don't be cautious about the virus or anything like that, but go out with a mask and find things to do with people at places that are open, and don't be like too afraid of that. Unless you're like very high risk, then definitely take care of yourself first. But there's a lot of things that you can go out and do. Like, even you can social distance and go to the park with someone, and you can social distance and even go to the movies. The theaters, that at least where I'm at, have been very good about sanitizing all their shit, and then no one can buy seats next to each other and shit like that, so you're actually like distanced. So I took some personal time this weekend. This was a chunk of my alone time to go see the new Spiral movie, the new Saw movie, and I went all by myself, and the theater had like 2 other people in it, and so it was a vibe, and it was a really good movie. But it gave me time to myself to kind of spoil myself and enjoy the artistic side of, horror movies that I like. So I was able to indulge in things that I liked with myself, and to fully emerge myself into a distraction that was a healthy distraction from my everyday life. So spending time alone can look like that. It can look like going on a walk. It can look like going to the park. For all the introverts out there, I'm sure this pandemic has been less of a struggle. Not that it wouldn't be a struggle, but that it probably is a little bit easier for you to handle if you're like me, and because I'm a very big homebody. I can spend all my time at home and be perfectly fine. Granted, as much as I love to travel places and do things, for me it hasn't been extraordinarily difficult to be at home just playing video games or watching shows or doing whatever I do at home.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I want to read off a chat real quick, and I think this is a really good point. We'll go into a little bit of detail and break this down here. So Valentina says alone time is hard sometimes because I work all day, Monday through Friday, and I come home and don't get to just be alone. I have someone asking where the clothes are. If it's dirty, I have to do laundry. I have someone asking what's for dinner. Honestly, I'm done with cooking due to my depression. And then work follows me home with my teacher, as I'm the assistant. If she needs me to do something, I do it at home, and we sometimes have Zoom meetings we have to log into after work. I feel like I'm drowning sometimes, and it affects my marriage and parenting, and my sleep because I get at least 4 to 5 hours a night. So that's really heavy, first and foremost. You got a lot going on, and Valentina, rest assured, one step at a time. And like we've talked about before with the various coffee talks, 2 big key things is 1, communication, and 2, 100% baby steps. Now, like what Kaz is saying, you can find ways to de-stress and manage time and have time to yourself without ever leaving your home. Now, if there's others in the household, like in a situation like a marriage, if your spouse has the ability to maybe take control for a day or for a couple minutes and let you go on a short walk, or let you game with your headphones on and just immerse yourself, whatever type of personality you may have, whether you're extroverted, introverted, maybe a little bit of both, I think it's really important that if you can talk to your spouse or find time, or if you can afford to find maybe a babysitter, somebody who can watch your kids, or when you have a small break, take full advantage of it and separate yourself away from everything. Find what makes you happiest in that time frame. And I know it's easier said than done, but as an example, granted the situation, of course, may be different for you. On a regular basis, sometimes I'm voluntold, sometimes I volunteer to watch my sister's kids for her. Now, yeah, that can be not so fun for me, but at the end of the day, it means that my sister and my brother-in-law get time for themselves, or sometimes when they both want to do their own things for the day and just go separate ways, I am in control. I have control of everything else that's going on in the world, and those two get their own time. Now, for me being a gamer, this is my time. This is how I de-stress. So I think it's really important to find, if something's not tangible or something's not easily doable for you, try and break it down and find it in small things as well as distractions that are healthy. Like for me, like you guys all know by now, my newest addiction is this. I don't leave the house. I'm not doing anything crazy for it. But it's something very small that de-stresses me personally, and I'm taking baby steps to find something that's tangible but easy to manage and find, happiness in. Even if it's something so insignificant to others, it means the world to me. And I think that's really important. Kuja's got a message here as well. And Kaz, if you want to add any of that or have any advice for a situation like that, please share as well.
I think on top of that, don't be ashamed to ask for help. If you have any people in your life that would be willing to help you manage your time or even manage your work, that's always a good thing. And then also acknowledge that, and this is a big thing I've had to acknowledge, this struggle you're going through it may feel really, really, really heavy right now. But when you look at the bigger picture and how big the bigger picture is, how big your future is with what you're trying to achieve, everything in between, acknowledge how small this struggle actually is, and it can help you feel better and also motivate you to understand that this is only temporary. Because if you're from what I'm understanding, it's like a student teacher, like they're um, helping a teacher, basically like interning or whatever. So that eventually you're going to be the teacher, and that is the amount of work you're going to be taking on. But you're not going to have all the school and everything on the side, and it's going to look a lot different. But managing time for yourself and your family should always be top priority, and do your best to take that time. But also, like, if you are spending all of that time with these people that you care about and on work and everything, and you're not getting enough sleep, then that time you're spending with these people is going to be even more draining. And also, from what I found, is when I don't have enough sleep, or when I see people that don't have enough sleep, they tend to not be able to handle their emotions as well, or to be able to take on their day-to-day tasks as well. So if you can find time to nap, that's me time. That's de-stressing time. And it's a distraction because you're not thinking about anything. And start looking into things that can help you maybe declutter your brain to achieve the ability to just go to sleep when you need to, which is a lot easier said than done. I know I definitely struggle with insomnia, and one thing that I had to do when I was in jail, because I had to sleep on my back in jail because the way the beds are there, and it was just an uncomfortable atmosphere with a lot of uncomfortable energy. And if I had to force myself to go to sleep because I worked like mornings for the kitchen there to basically lessen my time. And one thing that helped me a lot was nose breathing. So I would just I'd plug one nostril and then breathe in for 5 seconds, breathe out for 5 seconds, breathe in for 5 seconds, breathe out for 5 seconds, and do that about 10 times. And then I'd switch nostrils, do the same thing, and then I'd breathe through both nostrils. And you just do it on repeat, and it kind of takes your head away from everything. And before you know it, you'll just be knocked out, because the slow breathing slows your heart rate and then calms you down, and overall will help you to fall asleep. But it's a constant struggle, and know that you're not the only person struggling. And like I said, don't be ashamed to reach out and try to find someone that can help you. Like Raz says, he'll watch his nieces or nephews to give his sibling time with each other. And that's not only time that, you know, he said he has control over, but it's also serving a purpose. So he knows deeper that he is providing something good for someone else, which gives you this sense of deeper purpose, which helps you overall mentally as well, because giving is one of the ultimate forms of feeling good about yourself, which is, it's always important to feel good about yourself. And on top of that, he's giving them time that they need for their mental health as well. So everybody's winning in a situation like that. And he's giving time for his bonding experience with those family members. I know, being an uncle, I have a very strong attachment to kids, and spending time with kids just kind of reminds me consistently how much, like, how they're able to view the world is how much I'd love to be able to view the world on a daily perspective, like not having to think about all of the shit that I have to deal with. So when I spend time with little kids, it kind of lets me like escape away from all the shit that bothers me, because you start to focus on things that the little kids are focused on. And some people approach that and they feel annoyed, or they feel like they're wasting their time. But the reality is you're only wasting your time if you let your thought have that power. But if you let your thought comprehend the way you're spending your time is actually a good thing, and it's a good thing for not only those kids, but for yourself and for everyone involved, then you're not wasting your time regardless of how you're spending it. And that's like one key thing about meditation, is like a lot of people think that like the hardest part about meditation is the concept of thinking you're wasting your time, because you're not thinking about anything, you're not doing anything, you're just being still in the moment. But it's not a waste of time. There is no such thing as a waste of time. Time is spent no matter what, and time will always be valuable regardless of how you spend it.
I think it's really important too that when you're dealing with situations like we talked about earlier, I call it sizing it up. But even like earlier this week, I had a really, really down day, and everybody came in with overwhelming support. Like, dude, you got this. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be fine. So even hearing all those, like we talked about previously, words of affirmation, everyone saying like, dude, you got this. You're gonna be all right. I had to step away and tell myself that, you know what, they're right. It is gonna be okay, and that any problem or issue that I was facing, I call sizing up and looking at it from a different perspective and saying, this is only something that's going to hold me back for maybe 1 or 2 months. It's not the end of the world. And at the end of the day, I'm still reaching goals or finding new creative ways and methods to grow from it, to become stronger in whatever I define as strength. So when you're sizing something up, you're taking this perspective of, hey, right now, this thing feels huge, but think about it in the perspective of a week, right? And it shrunk down a little bit. A month, and it shrunk down a little bit more. 2 months, more, and then you realize when you're looking at it from an outsider's perspective, this is something so much smaller that you can break down versus trying to compartmentalize every single piece and worry and have this anxiety and get, extremely uncomfortable from this and feel like you're out of control. Just break it down slowly, slower and slower. Do the steps you need to complete that task, and don't let it overwhelm you. Because I had this conversation with so many people this week. And again, thank you so much if you reached out, but all good things come in time. Everybody wants to be a millionaire, but if everybody could do it tomorrow, then what's the point of being a millionaire? Everyone wants to have everlasting happiness. Everyone wants to earn a 4-year degree. It's called a 4-year because that's the minimum. I'm in school now for 7 for a 4-year degree, but it's taken me more time to process and understand who and where I want to be. I'm not comparing myself to the people next to me. I'm taking my time and valuing every single step of the way. And I think that's important. Now, I'm going to go through another one here. I'm going to finish off the next thing Valentina said here. I'm going to go back to you, Cujo. Don't worry. Valentina says, got to be super mom sometimes, and Gar watches me fall apart. It's hard because Gar works 12 hours some nights and he sleeps during the day. He helps when he can, but it sucks being an adult. I love playing games to help unwind. I'll play killer and be toxic. Yes. I feel like I can't ask for help. Gar gets upset saying I don't have to do it alone. It's just me feeling like I'm supposed to do everything, but I don't have to. And see, right there, you've already answered your initial issue, and you know what the answer is. I'm very, very similar. I think pride's a very big thing. A lot of it has to do with how I was raised in our culture, but don't ever be afraid to ask for that help, because all you're doing is holding yourself back from happiness. You're putting more and more and more on yourself, which is adding more weight to your chest that's not necessary. If somebody's willing to say, hey, I can carry the load for a little bit, I can lift a little bit off, then I definitely recommend, taking the baby steps and having that open conversation to get to that point where it's like, okay, I got you. Let's meet halfway, or whatever the situation may be. Never let your pride get in the way of being who you want to be and who you already know you can't be. So that's just me.
Yeah, and then also Jesus made a good point. He said, just don't bite off more than you can chew.
Absolutely.
Basically, a lot
Pace
of people
yourself.
a lot of people tend to think that they're responsible for other people's shit, or maybe even to a point of fault where you do take on more than you should be taking on. One thing Valentina said is it's hard to find alone time, balancing all of their schedules and everything. But a big part of that is also comprehending just taking what you can. So like in 1 week, and baby steps can mean take it day by day, but baby steps can also mean take it week by week, or even month by month. However you view baby steps, your size is going to be different than everyone else's. So for me, it's been a week by week basis, and I kind of just look at my week ahead of me. I understand the things that I have to do, balancing between streaming, spending time with those that I care about, spending time with myself, doing my community service, and my job, my actual work. And this is one thing I talked about to Pack as well, was because he has a lot going on, and how he's at a point where he feels like he needs to hire a personal assistant to do a lot of his stuff for him, which is crazy to me. I can't even think about that. But when it comes to that alone time or that family time or whatever it is, try to find a balance that you're comfortable with, and chase that. So if in 1 week the only amount of alone time you can find is 15 to 20 minutes, take the 15 to 20 minutes and run with it. Take whatever you can get in any, whether that's like having a bowl of cereal in the morning before everyone else wakes up, or sitting out on your back porch for 10 minutes before you may leave to work. If it's raining outside, go out for 5 minutes and just enjoy the smell. The little things are still alone time. Those are still things that can help you mentally push forward through the processes that you have to go through, because everyone has busy lives, and that's one big thing, especially being a streamer, that it's been a process of learning that, because there's a lot of self-doubt in ourselves. I've noticed whenever I started streaming, when your view count is low and you think in your head, well, nobody wants to watch me because I suck, or because I'm boring, or because I'm shitty. But the reality is that every single person in the world has shit going on, and they're busy. They're doing things that they have to do in their day to day. So if there's ever even a point that someone comes into your stream and spends 2 minutes with you, instead of looking at the people that aren't there in a negative light, look at the people that are there and do spend that time with you. And it's like, that's one thing Raz says at the end of every single stream, is he takes a moment to thank everyone for the time that they dedicate to his content and his art. And it's important to comprehend the worth of time, and how you're spending it, whether it's achieving your goals or achieving rest. There's no, or even achieving healing, because one big process for me has been, as I've had to heal from things that have happened to me, betrayals and loss and abandonment, is that you can't just look at something and then be better the next day. It's going to take a lot of processing and time, and it's important to take that time to sit in it and understand it for what it is, and then also understand how you feel about it and how you're going to move forward, and what's best for your heart and for your happiness. And all of that just takes time. There's no other recipe for fixing a broken heart or fixing any form of tragedy, especially if you've lost loved ones, whether it be to health conditions or murder. The only thing that's going to help you through that stuff, I mean, obviously there's a lot of comfort situations that can help. Friends can help you, people can be there for you, but all of that takes time. So that, like, let's say you're grieving someone that you lost, and you spend an hour talking about it to someone, and then they hug you and you cry it out. That was all time. Regardless of the actions taken within that time, you still have to take that time to heal. And time to heal comes with others, but also within yourself alone. So I think the biggest takeaway for me, and one of the biggest things that I've been able to appreciate myself for in everything that I've been through in life, and this is something that I have that a lot of people don't have, and some people will never obtain it, but just patience, the ability to be patient with the people around me and the things going on, and my ability to believe that things will fall into place the way they need to, and that whatever happens. And right now, the only thing I have control over is what I do in this exact moment, as opposed to panicking about the future or freaking out about the past. Sitting in this moment, because the only part of time that you can control is the moment that you're in.
No, absolutely. There's a couple points here too that I want to bring up. So Valentina says, yes, cultural thing. I was always told, don't be lazy, you're the mom, etc. I'm blessed with a husband that wants to help me, and I won't let him. Now, they went back and forth in their own conversation. Excellent, by the way. I am reading through that. Christian says, I talk to myself on stream for a good 6 months. I appreciate each and every viewer more than they could ever know. LOL, streaming and meeting y'all has steered me from a very dark path. I love you guys. So this is going to involve time, but going to go on a side aspect here. So if there's anybody out there who's ever considered streaming or is a streamer and comes by and checks us out, first and foremost, thank you. I think that's amazing. And I think it's a really great thing to understand that we should always give back to our community and look at the person next to us and just say, hey, sometimes, or drop in and just like, and something so small can mean the world to someone. But like Kaz said, literally, and I haven't said it in the past couple nights, and I'm gonna be honest about that, but I used to always say, you know, thank you so much for your time. Time is the most valuable thing. It's the one thing you never get back. So if you spent any amount of time with me, I appreciate it more than you know. Because time is super duper valuable, and how you decide to spend that time is your right in your life. You got to find a balance and understanding and desire to do what you want to do in whatever way possible. And when it comes to processing things, you know, regardless of the size or how big or small it might be as a victory or defeat for you, you got to be able to process that information. You got to give yourself a moment to say, okay, for me, usually I go the 2-step rule. I say, okay, well, that sucked. I didn't like the way that felt. I don't want to feel that way again. Excuse me. So what am I going to do next time around? So that if it happens, to know how to pick myself up, or if it happens, to know what I need to do next to push myself further to grow. See, the concept that a lot of people forget is that when you're presented with an issue, it's not so much, how can I avoid this? How can I go around this? How can I make this better? There's no possibility and no way to make something better like this. It's just not a thing. You got to be able to process and understand how you're feeling. You got to be able to know what happened and what, don't worry about what could have been different. Focus on what already happened. And then going forward, you're going to say, okay, well, I know what I want to do next time around. If there is no next time, just say, I know how that felt. I know how I reacted. I should grow from that. That should condition you to say that, you know, if you had a really bad fight with family and you've been holding something in and you finally let it go, you pop off your cap and say, blah, 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 you're this and you're that. Dude, that sucks. But you were presented with a tough situation. You reacted. And going forward, you should allow yourself to communicate more openly. You shouldn't wait until you get upset. Take the time, have patience, and really communicate. I think that's super important too. And I know this is kind of bouncing all over the place, but I'm literally just free flowing. And for the streamers out there, nobody's going to be a partner overnight. You should ask any partner and they'll tell you how much time and effort somebody put into what they have. And for every single person, even if you're not a streamer, this is still applicable. You are your own brand. How you decide to convey yourself and present yourself should be something you're very proud of and that you're very conscious of. And I think that's a big thing, is awareness. You know, when you're faced with something really tough, if you're aware of the situation and aware of yourself, I think that plays very heavily into your patience. And I think that plays very heavily into growth. You're understanding what's happening. And sure, you might have popped your cap in the moment, but you're still growing from it. You're understanding, hey, that sucked really badly, but I'm not going to let that happen again. So if a streamer, if you have 2 people in your chat, I always like to envision myself in a living room. If there's, let me see. I can't do math. 13 people plus me and Kaz, it's 15. There's 15 people in my living room right now. That's a whole ass house party. If you have gatherings bigger than that, you hopefully have a giant house. That's a lot of people in one room. Holy shit. You know, if there's 4 people, that's a family game night, dog. Let's play. If you have 25 people, that's a theater. Anything past that, you might need to consider looking at stadiums, but that's a lot of people in one place. Exactly, a party. So no matter how many people you don't see or that you don't feel are around you, there's always people there. Just imagine yourself in a living room. And for those of you going through a really bad situation or a really dire situation, I always think of when I'm having a rough week and somebody reaches out to me, they're standing in my living room saying, yo, dude, it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And that I create that distance and visualize them there with me and say, you know, this is going to get better. You're here for me. So when I had 22 people reach out last week and say, dude, everything's going to be okay, my living room was fucking crowded. And though this is a kind of abstract concept, again, I'm the guy who closes doors and solves one problem at a time doing it that way. It's really helpful because you feel like people are genuinely there with you. And I didn't mean to take all that time. Anytime you want, guess. That's hot. That's a hot quote. I like that a lot. For those of you who can't see chat, if you're on a platform where you can't, Cass quoted Alan Watts. The quote states, "We are living in a culture entirely hypnotized by the illusion of time, in which the so-called present moment is felt as nothing but an infinitesimal hairline between all powerfully fuck you causative past and an absorbingly important future. We have no present." That's deep. Kaz is muted, that's why. Yeah, he's muted on our end. He's talking to his chat.
Me forgetting I was muted.
Nice.
That's because I was typing and I didn't want to.
Oh, got you.
I didn't want my keyboard to be on it. Okay.
Hey, I like clickety clicks.
So playing off of everything you were talking about with the stream and everything in between, it's so I started off on Twitch whenever I started streaming, and on Twitch it's a significantly different community. It's a lot harder to be put in front of people because the algorithm doesn't serve those that are new. So you sit on 0 viewers a lot, and I had to learn a lot of different things. That whole concept of 25 viewers being a full party bus or whatever it's a good concept to consider, but then there's a lot of people out there that are trying to achieve things that they may be knocked down, whether it be running their own business, becoming a streamer, being a musician, getting that new job they like, whatever it may be. I think it's important to comprehend that not everybody reaches their goals the same way. So some streamers have this luck and ability to get on stream and present themselves and naturally attract people and start reaching those numbers pretty fast. Whereas other streamers can sit on 0 viewers for 2 years and beat themselves up over it because they spend all this time. They're like, oh, I spend all this time, stream 4 hours a day. I've been doing it for 2 years. But if you haven't taken the time, and this is a big part of time and commitment to things and goals, if you haven't taken the time to figure out why it's not working, then you're just wasting whatever time you're using trying to move forward with it. I think this is one big thing that has always rung true to me is the definition of insanity, which is trying the same thing over and over and over again, but expecting a different result. So if you're going and using your time on the same exact thing over and over and expecting something different to happen off of that same thing, then you're insane. That's literally technically the definition of insane. So you need to step out of that insanity and start thinking outside of the box. How can I obtain this promotion at work? What can I do differently? As a musician, it's a lot of like, well, maybe my voice doesn't fit this song, so maybe I should try other songs that fit my voice better. Or maybe I'm not spending enough time practicing my guitar playing part of the aspect. Or maybe I should learn how to play a different instrument. Or I should practice the concept of performance in a different way because of my performance anxiety. With streaming, it could be maybe I need to put out video content on YouTube, and maybe that's what's going to bring people to me. That's what's going to make people like me. Maybe before I stream, I should script out. And this is a thing. People think that streamers don't do shit like this, but some streamers literally spend time writing out scripts on talking topics and stuff like that, because if you're not talking, you're boring. That's just what the life of being a streamer is. One thing Pac pointed out to me when he was getting into streaming is he did a lot of studying into radio show hosts and how they keep the ball rolling, just consistently talking. And basically he said every 8 seconds of silence will and can lose you a viewer. So, and that's crazy to think about. Like, you can't even be quiet for 8 seconds, but that's a rule Pac goes by. And that's how he obtained a lot of his growth when streaming, is just by constantly talking. For some other people, Like for me, I find it easier to fill space with playing guitar or doing funny shit. So like a lot of my talking is bouncing off of people that can be funny with me. If you don't have a shtick and you're just a general like I hate to use the word normal, but normal person, as in like if I'm watching you and there's nothing that sticks out, you need to take time to find out what about you can stick out, because every single human being is incredibly different from one another. And you cannot tell me that you don't have something about you that's different than me or different than the next streamer. Don't copy someone. Don't like use your time in such a perspective that every second you're spending outside of and inside of stream is going to push you forward. So like there's so much that you can do while you're not streaming to make your stream better. I think one thing a lot of people don't comprehend when it comes to streaming is the amount of time. Like if you look at Raz's stream right now, I know mine's significantly simpler because I'm lazy and did not put all the effort into my shit for Confidecast. I wanted it to be really simple, dumbed down, so that everyone would be focusing on the words. But if you look at Raz's screen right now, you can see my logo up next to me. You can see his background. You can see Coffee Talks and it's moving. You can see in the bottom right all of the advertisements of his social platforms and everything in between. And you guys think that doesn't take a long time, but that is hours of work to get it exactly like you want it. And then constant nitpicking as you bring it up again and again and again. Like you think he just did it and it's there and it's good. But even before stream today, both of us had to adjust our shit to where it looked like it does right now. Both of us had to. And so a lot of people don't want to take that time. And I think if you look at anyone that's successful with the stuff that they do, whether it be art, music, their job, or whatever, the one thing that you like, the one common theme is you can see that people put their blood, sweat, and tears into whatever they're trying to achieve. And the amount of time that they're putting into it is what they'll get back.
And I think that's incredibly applicable for everyday things as well. And so, John Cena, you said I'm a people pleaser. I had to find my voice and say no every once in a while. Absolutely. I'm going to cover base with that real quick. I think it's super important to be able to tell somebody no. Like, your entire life doesn't involve completely around the people around you. And dare I say, mind you, this is from my perspective, I don't have any children that I'm aware of. Gracie, if you're watching, that was a joke. I can't talk from a first-hand perspective there, but what I can tell you is I still prioritize my sister's mental health, and I say, look, I got the kids. Go do whatever adult things you want to do. Live your life. And I think that's important too. If you have children, you need to remember sometimes it's okay to prioritize yourself. I know for a lot of parents, kids are everything. I mean, fucking everything. I love that. I think that's amazing. But don't forget about you. The same thing when you're in a relationship with someone. Like I've covered this base so many times, but the biggest thing my mother ever told me, and I remember it every single day, is that when you are in love with someone or when you love something or people, a group of people, never forget to love yourself. Never love someone 100% because then you're forgetting to love yourself and all you're doing is hurting yourself. And that's not smart. It's just not. And the whole concept of why I'm explaining that is you got to be able to find that time and understanding that you need to have you time, even if it's a long bath. Put some rose petals on, light some candles, get romantic with yourself, woo yourself every once in a while. Like I tell myself on a daily basis when I do you're sexy as fuck in the mirror. That's not for anybody else but me. That makes me happy. I don't give a shit what anyone says about that. Pardon my French, but it's facts. That's one thing that I find in a very small snippet of time where I'm like, yo, you right there, fella in the mirror, you're looking good today. I'm proud of you. And there's days where I'm like, wow, my hair looks like an absolute mop. We need to fix that. But it's the little things. Find little things in whatever you do. Read, draw, if you're creative, make music, Sing at the top of your lungs, even if you sound like a tone deaf walrus like me. Fucking do it. Nobody has control of your life. You dictate and you control every single aspect of that. How you choose to spend that is up to you. Now, if you want to prioritize your kids and make sure you get all laundry done, do everything around you, great. But remember, at the end of the day, find 5 minutes for yourself. And I think that's the challenge I want to have for everybody. If you can, and don't tell me you can't, 5 minutes. 5. It's not a lot. 5 minutes to yourself every single day is the challenge I want to see this week. And you got to time yourself. If it's you sitting on the toilet, like a lot of guys do on our phones, like watching funny shit or looking at memes or on Facebook, that's 5 minutes to ourselves. You can do the same thing. You don't have to do it on the toilet. You can do it anywhere you want. 5 minutes is all I'm asking. Just challenge yourself. 5 minutes, baby. I forgot where else we were leading to get to this point, but I really wanted to emphasize that. I think that's so important. It really is. The man, you are a fine-looking dude in the mirror. Chef's kiss. And here, going back to this little overlay like I have here, everything you do is gonna take time. Nothing in life is free. Nobody's gonna hand you a brick of gold and say, enjoy your time. No one's gonna hand you a winning lottery ticket. It's gonna take time. It's gonna take sweat. It's gonna take tears. It's gonna take commitment. But baby, you got this. You can do it. Stop focusing solely on that goal, like that finish line, and focus on what do I need to do to take the next step to get closer to that point? How can I get stronger? How can I be better to take one step forward? Doesn't matter how big a step, you're still taking a step. And I think that's important too. And that's for content creators. That's for moms. That's for dads. That's for aunts. That's for uncles. That's for brothers. That's for friends. That's for everybody fucking in between. Find what you can do. Take 5 minutes to yourself to comprehend what's happening, to understand what you need to do or what you feel you need to do to take that next step. I don't care if it's a baby step, a step of an aunt, a grandma step, whatever the fuck it is, take a step and grow from it because it's going to get better. It's going to get easier. The problem that seems like it's this big will shrink into something that's this big and this big and this big. And when you take a leap, it's going to go this big and it's going to get smaller to where it's nothing and minuscule, where you have full control once again. And I think that's important.
And then comprehending the endless possibilities that a lot of people like live with this I can't do this mentality, or they get knocked down easily when they don't succeed right away and they don't take the time to achieve that success. And so I put this this is another Alan Watts quote, but he does a lot of he's just really smart in the way he can put things in perspective. He says, waking up from a dream, going round and round and round. After a while, one's experiences begins to have a, what I would call, haven't we been here before feeling. And then you begin wondering, where am I going? What do I want to happen? And of course, as soon as you ask yourself that, you begin to fantasize. And so I soon found myself at a great push button place, with buttons available for every conceivable thing I could wish. All possible pleasures are available. You know, you go, going. Like that, and here's Cleopatra. Then press this button and symphonic music. So I simply set myself to thinking through how far we could go. Now you suddenly notice there's a button labeled surprise. You push that and here we are. So essentially the concept that the power's at our fingertips. We're all in this push button place, and whatever we want to achieve, we just have to take the time to hit the buttons. We just have to take the time to push ourselves into a place where we can reach those endless possibilities. A lot of people think that they want to travel the world, or that they want to achieve a career in this or that, or that they want to become a bigger artist or a big streamer or whatever it is. Well, no matter who you are, you have the power to do that. It's just a matter of taking the time to do it and understanding how far you can go. And how far you can go is ultimately up to how much time you're willing to put into it.
And this is slightly off to the side as well, but there's something I really wanted to highlight there that Christian said very, very well. Now, I'm not going to say this verbatim, of course, but he says that for a lot of parents, and again, this is solely from an observation, I'm not a parent. Take it as a grain of salt if you need to. As a parent, if you're consistently asking yourself, am I being a good parent? you're already a good parent because you've taken the time and you stress the idea of asking yourself, am I doing the right thing? You 100% are. Now, you're lacking the confidence to believe in yourself, but by asking yourself that question or the people around you, you're an amazing parent. That's absolutely outstanding because you're looking for a way to become better and grow and be more in the moment and there for your child or children. And I think that's amazing. That's so fucking powerful. That's so brave, and that's absolutely outstanding. Without even considering it, when you ask that question, guess what just happened? You just took a step. You might not even have thought about it, but that's a step from one question. So there's so many ways and so many things you can do to take the steps that you need to do to get towards your goals, whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be something giant. Like I said, it could be small. If you're somebody who suffers from serious depression and you can't even get out of bed some days, if your goal for the day is to take out the trash or make yourself a sandwich or get a cup of water, do it. You know, take the steps that you need to and get to that point and say, if that's your first goal, guess what? Make another one. Make it a little more challenging and see where you can go. There's a naval officer, and he gave a speech at Harvard to a graduating class. Not for verbatim purposes, because it was a 45-minute long speech. There's one challenge that the naval officer gave himself every single day. And this is something he didn't learn from the military, ladies and gentlemen. This is something he learned from his mother. And that challenge was that every single morning, and I talked about this before, he's going to make his bed. I know some of you sitting there thinking, like, making your bed? That's so easy. Anybody can do that, right? But how many of you actually do? Every single day. He takes time out of his day every single morning to make his bed, and here's why. Regardless of what the day has brought him, regardless of the stresses, regardless of the failures, regardless of the amount of success he has or that he believed he had, when he comes home at the end of the day, exhausted, drained, defeated, successful, whatever the case may be, he is coming home to a nicely made bed that he did himself. Nobody else helped him. That was his first accomplishment of the day, and he set himself in a straight path. And it's something so small. Again, I'm not asking a lot. Hell, you don't even have to do this. But challenge yourself. If you have to have one goal, if you have to take that 5 minutes like I asked for earlier, make your bed. Because at the end of the day, when you come in, you hop into that nice cozy bed. Like me, I love thrashing my bed. I love getting in, snuggling up all under the covers and messing up my pillows to get all comfy. I'm like a dog. You know? I want to roll around and make sure it's nice and pretty for me. But you know what? That was my first accomplishment of the day. So when I get ready to lay down and I'm all nice and cozy, getting ready to watch some anime, I'm happy. Because I succeeded. If anything else in the day that I failed at, I succeeded in one thing. My very first goal of the day. So I challenge you to do that.
Yeah, I don't make my bed, like, ever. Okay, so I have two comments. One is Ben. He said, I was at a gas station one time and the worker was giving me a life lesson. He said he looks in the mirror every day and says that he's sexy because if he doesn't, who will? I didn't really think much of it at the time, but now I understand how true it was. And then Jesus says, I was asked to ask about this. There's talk about being alone, but what about the people that are alone most of the time? What do you say about this topic, basically handling anxiety, depression, suicide all alone? I think, like, it is important to have alone time, but for those of you that are struggling with feeling alone and being alone more or a lot of the time or most of your time, that it is incredibly important to find help. And I know for some, it may not be as simple as finding new friends because of social anxiety. And a lot of people will say, hey, just go out and if you're interested in something, find activities that relate to that and meet people that are interested in the same things. But it's not always that easy with people that are struggling with depression, suicidal thoughts, social anxiety, a lot of things. Like, a lot of people don't understand that with depression, the things that you enjoy don't bring you joy anymore. So, like, even though I love video games, there's times where if you're struggling with depression, or like when I've been struggling with depression, streaming and video games doesn't bring me joy. Music didn't bring me joy. There was no source of happiness because everything's being blocked out by this unending hole, so to speak. And so I think that when you're approaching that anxiety, depression, and suicide all alone, your next step should 100% be finding professional help. And don't be ashamed of that, because you're not the only person in the world that needs professional help. I've had to seek out therapy. Many members of Confide have had to seek out therapy. And although we all can look like we're in a certain light on stream, what happens behind the scenes is definitely not all there for you guys to see. And so if you are out there and you are struggling, just know that you're not alone, and that if you need to talk to anyone, even if it's within our streams or whatever, or if you need help trying to figure out how to obtain that professional help, don't be afraid to ask, because the worst thing you can receive is a no. And you can move forward from that no and find anyone else that's willing to say yes. There's so many people in this world that are going to be there that want to help you. But it is a harder thing to handle, and you may feel like you're alone, or you may actually be alone. Some people in this world are, but just know that the possibilities are still endless. And when it comes to dedicating your time, you just got to do your best to not dedicate your time to that depression, and dedicate your time towards getting out of that depression. And
That's facts.
It's not
Real
an
quick,
easy task.
for so many people, we're like, it's really easy to say, but sometimes, maybe I am alone. I feel like I'm alone. Remember what we talked about earlier, sizing it up? So here's your loneliness problem, okay? Do you have internet access at home? Do you own a mobile device? Do you know how to go to your app store and download Discord? Do you know how to join Kaz, any of your favorite streamers' Discords? Do you know how to join a chat room or text? Congratulations. We might not be physically there for you, but there's so many ways that you can reach out and talk to people, even with everything going on in the world. All you have to do is pick up one of these guys that you have, right? Open up Discord. Text one of your buddies. Join a chat channel. Join an open community. There's so many people that you can talk to. And as a perfect example, which I always like to advertise in pretty much every Coffee Talks, when you open up your Discord, if you're a part of mine, I have this, and I'll share all these links with Kaz as well so you can have it open in his. If you click on this little bad boy that we have on the side here, let me actually find it. You open this bad boy on your Disco, right? Oh, my green screen's fucking it up. There's a link for a chat channel that says helpful links. You're going to click on that. I don't even think I clicked on it. And these are tons of free and available links to talk to professionals, different forums, open chat rooms, and places that you can talk to people who are licensed to handle situations like this or have dealt with something similar, whether it be PTSD, anxiety, any type of previous abusive relationships, disorders, anything like that. There is a place that you can go to and people you can talk to if you don't feel like you can confide in someone like myself or Kaz or anybody in the community immediately. If you need to speak to professionals or seek professional help, you can't afford the funds, you don't know where to go, like 98% of the links we have are free and places that you can go to talk to people, to talk about whatever you need to get off your chest. It's 2021. You are not alone. It's as simple as that. Your giant problem right here has gone from here to here. All you have to do is apply and remember there are people that care. Even if you don't think they do, if you don't take that leap and decide to say, let me talk to someone, you're only holding yourself back. And in terms, you're hurting yourself even more. You get a key, Grandpa? Yes. My gray hair. Beautiful. But yeah, I didn't want to take over there. I'm sorry I interrupted, Cass. I just really wanted to make that point.
No,
Because
you're
I think a
good.
lot of people forget. It's 2021. You own a mobile phone, you ain't alone. That's it. Period.
Yeah, you can find help regardless of where you
Anywhere.
find it. There's many places to find help. And that's one big part of why we have the playlist, the mental health playlist on Spotify for anyone that is struggling with any emotion. If you've had music that has helped you through any concept of emotion, whether it be sadness, anger, helping you to feel your own happiness, etc., feel free to go to the link in my pinned comment and add your music into the playlist and delve into the other music. You may not like all of the music, but I've definitely found new music that has helped me with my mental health and my struggles that I've been going through with everything that's happened recently. And I think that it's important to that take that time, and music can also help you feel like you're not alone. Raquel says, my pride keeps me from talking to anyone. I'm alone a lot of the time, but it's not because I don't have anyone. I just think about people having their own problems, so they don't need mine. I think that I can relate to that really well. I have a defense mechanism where when I get sad or upset about something, I retreat inside of myself and into my own imagination, as opposed to sharing it with the people who do want to help. And there are people that do want to help, but I feel like if I transfer that energy or that heaviness to them, that I'm doing wrong by them. But there are people in this world that thrive on that. And so one thing for me is, and it's something that I recently picked up and started really getting into, is Enneagram tests. It's a personality test that kind of helps you to understand more about the type of person you are when it comes to handling emotional turmoil or goals or anything in between. And for me, I tend to identify with my sadness and find beauty in all of the good and bad things that happen. And so like when I see a tragedy, I'm able to look into that tragedy and make it into something beautiful. Whereas some people don't have that perspective. And then there's other types that have an exertive need, like this is their purpose, this is what they live for, and they're not going to be happy unless they have this this purpose. And that's to basically cut your own heart out and put it on the table to save someone else's. So essentially, like, they need you to put your struggles in front of them so that they can help you get through them, because that's what they thrive on. So there are people like that in the world. And as much as your pride or your need to not feel like you're hurting someone else with your pain exists, you need to get past that fear. That's a part of loving fearlessly. Loving yourself fearlessly and loving others fearlessly is trusting them with that energy and that heaviness that you carry, and having them help you with that. It's just like it plays back in my head to the scene of in Planet of the Apes, when he takes the one stick and he says, alone we're weak, and then he takes a bunch of sticks and he says, but together we're strong, and he can't break the bunch of sticks that are bunched together. It's essentially the same concept with mental health. Is alone we are weak, but with everyone sticking together in this sort of team fashion, it's a lot easier to carry that weight and to share that space. And it's also important for those of you that are the type 2 that need people to bring that to them so that they can help. Like if you're the type of person who's like, wow, I really want to be a listening ear and I want to help people and I want to sacrifice myself for your good, for your greater good, just understand that you need to retain your own space, and you also need to share, and you also need to, as much as you don't want to, because you're going to have those inner dealings where you want to help someone else but you don't want to help yourself. It's important to give as much space as you're taking from others, because if you don't take the time to be conscious of your mental space or your mental health space, you're going to flood, and things are going to start spilling outside of that space, and it's going to be disastrous. There's going to be a lot of emotions. There's going to be a severe lack of control. And that's where things start getting really bad when it comes to things like suicide or even hurting others or hurting yourself. You got to be able to retain your mental space. And if you feel like your mental space is too much at the moment and you need to step back away to let that space kind of drain out, take that time to yourself or to a distraction, and relieve that so that you can obtain that space back. Because at the end of the day, the only thing you can control is your space, not someone else's. And I've had situations where I am completely filled. My mental space is too heavy. I am not taking enough time to drain out that mental space and make room for more. And then someone comes up to me and they need something. They need to talk or vent. And my space is full, but I feel this obligation to give them the time and try to help them even though my space is full. And I hit this issue where I'm trying to help them, and basically I end up hurting them more because I'm exhausted or I can't handle the space they're handing me. And so instead of taking it and holding it or helping them carry it, I kind of just throw it on the ground. And then they feel like they're not cared about, and then I feel like I fucked up. And at the end of the day, all of that could have been avoided if I could just be honest with myself and honest with them and say, hey, I don't have this space right now. Can you give me some time and we can rain check this? Or can I help you find someone else that does have space? Because there's ways you can help, but you got to be able to provide that. You got to be able to provide that for yourself, and you got to be able to retain that space.
And seeing that situation, it's important too that you're putting yourself first in that situation, and at the same time, you're allowing yourself to process and letting other people know, like, hey, I need this. Like, this is something I need to do right now. And don't ever feel like you're letting someone down by saying anything else other than, I need some space. And that's okay. It's 100% okay. And even a relationship, that's okay. We refer to it in multiple different streams. It's referred to as gray space. Even in friendships, we utilize gray space. One thing that I would say on the opposite perspective, talking from a friend to friend, is that don't ever feel like you have to handle such a heavy weight by yourself. I know a lot of people beat themselves up or feel like you don't want to burden the other person, but know that a really good friend or a really good sister, a really good brother, a really good aunt, uncle, mom, dad, whatever the situation may be, we're here to listen. All you gotta do, and like I'm telling to one specific person, is don't be afraid to hit me up. I think from an outsider's perspective in a situation like that, I understand that you're hurting or you're going through a lot right now. But as a friend, if there's something that you need to talk about or get off your chest, as a friend, I'd want to be there for you. I'd want to take some of that weight and let you know it's going to be okay. It's going to get better. And I'm here to listen. And I think that a lot of people need to understand that. It's that your really close friends or the people that you confide in, they want to be a part of your life when it's absolute sunshine or when it's pouring rain. Let us be there too. Don't be afraid to let others in. I know pride can be a huge factor. Even coming from an Asian culture, it's handle it yourself. Or, you're nothing. It's dishonorable. No. Don't be afraid to reach out and say, hey, I need you. As a prime example, I'm going to share from experience here. Just the other day, Andrew texted me randomly out of the blue. If you guys don't know Andrew, he's one of my closest friends in real life and a really big supporter of my page and everything that I do. He hit me up randomly, 7:03 p.m. on the dot. He goes, hey man, can I talk to you? I dropped everything I was doing and I was there for my best friend. I said, yeah, dude, what's going on? And he immediately started breaking down. I said, hey, you know what? And he kept apologizing. Like, I'm sorry. I said, you know what? No. You're my best friend. I'm here for you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I want you to talk about how you're feeling. And you need to be able to have somebody, whoever that may be for you, or if you don't have that person, don't be afraid to reach out to anybody and confide. Any of our communities. Let yourself feel, let yourself process. Don't take everything on your own because you're not alone.
I think that's
Yeah.
the beauty of Confide is the if one of my viewers came to me and I couldn't retain space at the moment, I feel perfectly confident that I could kind of pass them along to another Confide member or bring another Confide member into the conversation and allow them to kind of retain the space so that I can still work on draining my own space. So there's this has been really big for me in this time thing, in my ability to think about what I'm going through and understand the way my brain works. It's lyrics from a song called Why I'm Scared. And basically they're like, what's the word for it? Spoken word music. So like the vocalist kind of speaks a lot of the times as opposed to singing, or it's like a mixture of the both. And so basically he says maybe it's just as much about what comes our way as it is how we react, just as much about the things that we've still got as it is about the things we lack. I know we won't always keep around those we feel we need. Some are fading in frame, some we're born to leave. But if we're still here and we still breathe, at least we've still got time to figure it out, to know what to do, to know how to feel, know the things that I've been making up inside my head, and to know it's real. And I think for me, that has a lot to do with how I process things, because, and this is how humans work too, they tend to look at the good and bad in highlighted factors as opposed to every single detail. And they also tend to want to see what they want to see or how they are reacting. So like if someone does something to you to make you really angry, you start to have this perspective that instead of comprehending that they're human and they fuck up, that they did this intentionally to fuck you over, and that in your head you feel like they don't deserve good things, or that they don't deserve happiness because of what they did to you. And that's one of those things that you make up inside of your head, is this like, even though you may believe everyone deserves love, in the moments, it's like that thing, everybody has this, at least I believe everybody has this, when you're driving on the highway and you know it may be a 2-second thought, but the thought of just pulling the steering wheel and veering off the road into whatever the fuck happens. The concept of how everybody thinks about death and how they perceive death or how they see death may be different, but everybody has moments in time where they think about those things. For me, it's a matter of being able to take time to understand the way I should react to the things, and understanding the things that I do have as opposed to focusing on the things that I don't. And also understanding that in life, people are important and they play big roles, but you don't need anybody. All you need is yourself for your own happiness. And some people are a message or a lesson in life, and some people are there for good. And it takes time to discover which is which, to know what to do to move forward, to know how to feel to move forward, and then to know what those thoughts are that you're making up as opposed to what's actually real, and what's in reality in the moment. And so for me, those words really hit me, because with a lot of what I've been dealing with, I've had to be able to acknowledge that a lot of my thoughts are based off of my emotions and they're not the reality of things, and that I need time to discover the reality of things, but also to know how to feel and know what I feel. So
No, absolutely. So I'm going to highlight something Valentina said here. Valentina says, I remember Gar told me something about why I like rewatching the same show over and over. He said it's a comfort thing because I have control of my emotions and I already know what's going to happen, etc. I literally watch Gilmore Girls every day. I've seen all the seasons tons of times. And there's nothing wrong with that. Watch it 1,000 more. Because like I said, for you it's Gilmore Girls. For me it's Pokemon cards. Because it's something that you feel like you have control of. And you're not ashamed of it because it brings you happiness. It's something that centers you. So without even thinking about it, Valentina, in this situation, you've just given yourself your 5 minutes. Maybe in this situation, 28 to 32 minutes, but you've given yourself that time because you understand what's going to happen, but you're there because it comforts you. And that's important. And for those of you out there who say, well, I don't know if I'm comfortable being alone, or I'm a very dependent person, I can't be alone. Baby steps, again. Find time. Take those 5 minutes to yourself and just lay in the room on your own. Lay on the couch. Watch TV. Play on your phone. Watch a relaxing video on your phone. Hell, I know for a fact, a lot of you are on your phone at least an hour a day. And if you're like, that's not me. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been streaming over an hour and you're still here. You've been on your phone for an hour. So you can find an hour time in that day to do something that you genuinely love and that you enjoy, something that centers you and that you have control over. Because you do. And if you feel like your life is spiraling and out of control, again, take a deep breath and process. Take the time to understand what's going on, how you're feeling, and how to size up the issue and work it down. And I think that's really important.
And for some people, this podcast, because this is episode 6, that means we've done 6 of these. That means, and typically it's an hour to 2.5 hours. So if we took that concept of time, that means we've spent probably close to 12 to 15 hours so far of our time to really dedicate into preparing for these, but also just doing them in general. And that's time that has given me this sense of purpose, because I feel like I'm not only helping myself, but I'm helping those around me. But it's also like you guys coming in and listening to it, you're helping yourself and you're helping those around you in doing this, in being here on these Sunday nights, and being a part of this journey that is Confidecast, and establishing, knowing your mental health better, and knowing how to handle your struggles as well as how other people have to handle theirs. And I think along with that, one big thing I'd say is take time to learn about yourself, because a lot of people don't take the time to think about what they need. And so, like, for me, a few things that have helped me learn about myself, looking at my star charts, my astrology, it's not dead on, but there's a lot of things that do ring completely true, and reading that and reflecting on myself and how I react to things and how I view the world. Doing my Enneagram test, which is a personality test, also helped me to understand a lot of how I identify with pain and a lot of how I retreat into myself instead of going to others with my space. So like, if you have never done an Enneagram test, I highly recommend. It's free to do. Do it, discover more about yourself. If you want to reach out to me personally, I actually have a lot of perspective to provide on the Enneagram. There's a band called Sleeping at Last. I'll put their entire album for the Enneagrams on the Confide playlist for anyone that wants to listen to it or wants to listen to their song specifically. But they wrote an entire album. Each song represents each Enneagram personality. And I'll just say this. It's really funny because I've never seen Jinx get emotional like this. But me and Jinx and Pac were in Discord the other day, and Pac and Jinx did their Enneagrams. And I've never seen Pac do this either, but I showed them their songs. Pac couldn't finish his because he was about to cry, and Jinx literally, like, basically was crying by the end of his song because of how much it affected them and understanding their personality and how they view the world. And so,
real quick, if I can butt in, talk to me a little bit more about this Enneagram test. Where can we go, or what website could we utilize to try this? I'm genuinely interested, so I'd love to see this as well.
Let me pull it up for you real quick, and I'll put it in chat.
Okay. That'd be awesome.
It's also a really good way to know those people around you.
Yeah, check it out. I'm going to try it myself tonight, as a matter of fact. I want to see about this. I don't feel like breaking down and crying, so maybe I'll listen to that song tomorrow. But
Okay, hold on. I'll put it in the chats right now. This is where I did mine, and this is where I had them do theirs. But it'll also help you to understand the things that help you like feel fulfilled and also your like defense mechanisms, how you approach work life, what you thrive on, etc. It's interesting how accurate they can be. There it is. That's the link. So I highly recommend looking into your Enneagram. I know a lot of people think that astrology is some fake buku bullshit, but you never know what you're going to find. It doesn't hurt to look. Also, look into the love languages. You can do the love language quiz online. Literally just Google love language, and they have a quiz for you to find out what your two main love languages are. One thing a lot of people don't think about is what makes them feel loved. And that's a big part of mental health, is comprehending what makes you feel loved, not just from your friends, but also from your spouse or your family. And a lot of people struggle to be able to communicate what makes them feel loved because they don't know what makes them feel loved, because they've never taken the time to look at themselves and understand themselves. And then also, for the ones that you do care about, knowing their Enneagram, knowing their personality, and they're like we think, man, we can just communicate this stuff. We can just like, I can just go to Raz and be like, yeah, this is who I am. But the thing is a lot of the stuff that I've explained about myself was actually like the only reason I was able to explain it or communicate it out in the open was because the time I took to find out who I am and what I am. So like, knowing my love languages, and then also comprehending that your love languages change. I've noticed lately my love languages have definitely been physical touch and words of affirmation for most of my life, but lately it's delving, like there's a really big part of me that likes gifts and likes to give gifts, and it's just it can depend on the season, it can depend on the time of year, it can depend on your age, but your love languages do change, and it's good to reassess and kind of discover as you're going along. Like, because like in 3 or 4 months from now, you might like need something else to feel loved, and being able to communicate that to those around you is huge. It's very important, especially in relationships. A lot of people struggle in their relationships because they're not providing the love language that their spouse needs. And so like, for instance, your spouse could really like acts of service and quality time, but then you could like physical touch and gifts. So your idea of loving someone primarily focuses on buying them a gift or making them a gift or giving them physical attention. So you go out and you give them that physical attention, or you give them a gift, or you give them both, and then you feel like, wow, I really just loved them. And then they may feel underappreciated, or you may feel underappreciated when they're not enthusiastic about it. And then you're both left feeling like you don't love each other, or like they don't love you, or vice versa. Whereas if you communicate with each other, hey, like, I like acts of service and quality time, that means we can go to dinner, put our phones away, turn them off, and completely focus on each other. And that other person is going to feel significantly more loved for that. And then I can take out the trash. And that small thing that takes 5 minutes can make you feel exponentially loved. Whereas for me, it could be a back rub, or you bought me, like Rachel just recently bought me a pair of earrings that are Akatsuki clouds, and they're dope as fuck. And
that's dope.
It made me feel good. It made me feel loved. And so like, as you progress, also acknowledge that those things can change, those love languages can change. And giving all 5 is important, but acknowledging the important ones when they're important. The thing is your spouse cannot read your mind, and your spouse cannot tell you what you need. You have to tell them what you need, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. For a successful relationship and the successful ability to love each other, it's very important that you reach out to them and say, hey, lately I've been really feeling like I need physical attention. And that's what could make you, because that's part of the nonviolent communication. That was our first episode, and our third episode was nonviolent communications part 1 and 2, which we're doing part 3 next weekend. But essentially, instead of coming up to them and saying, well, you never do this or you never do that, you approach it from the perspective of, hey, it would really make me happy if you provided this, or if you could do this for me. And then they feel a sense of purpose, like you want them to do this. And that's how they can make you happy. And the next thing you know, you're both taking steps towards filling your love tanks. And part of filling your love tanks and taking that time to do so is also, because this all ties right back into the time concept, is also your ability to drain your mental space. The more filled up your love tank is, the more space you're going to be able to carry when things get heavy with those around you, because that love kind of saturates and takes away the anguish or the heaviness of your mental space. So, and people don't comprehend that love is a powerful thing, and it's the thing that's going to really,
absolutely.
If you're trying to drain your mental space, the best way to do that is to have love, or to show love, and to achieve that. So I encourage everyone, Raz already put out his homework to take the time to, what was it, look in the mirror and call yourself sexy?
5 minutes. Take 5 minutes to yourself and doing something that's important to you. Okay, nobody else is involved in that 5 minutes but you. And also, I wanted to add to, don't feel like you're being selfish when you're speaking to your significant other or to your person and say, this is what's going to make me happy, or this is what I need, because it's a relationship. Regardless of how many directions it may go in, you're all together. Communicate. Talk with one another. And the thing about time, and one thing I've really noticed as I paid more attention to my love languages, is that it can change in high-strung times or times of stress. It can change on a daily basis. It can change on an hourly basis. Don't hesitate to vocalize that. The more stressed you are, the more difficult it might be to identify. And maybe in those 5 minutes, you try and identify, what would make me happy this week? Because for me, I'm honest to goodness in saying, yo, I love me some back scratches and cuddles. Like, that is chef's kiss. I'm a giant teddy bear. I like people saying, hey, you're doing a good job. You got this. You're doing good. And I like me some cuddles. So if my person does that when I'm having a really, really rough week, your boy's out. I'm going Mimi's. It's going to be beautiful. And I'm excited for that. And I can identify that even in high stress weeks. Now, outside of that, still words of affirmation are great, but then it shifts into gift giving or acts of service. It can shift between those two. So I'm able to identify that, and that can change on a weekly, it can change on a daily, it can change on an hourly. Don't think that when we say time, it changes on a month-to-month basis. Just be able to identify what you need and vocalize that. It's super important that you do.
So I guess my challenge would be go out and, of the 3 things I talked about, do at least one of them. Whether it be your birth chart, Enneagram, whatever strikes your interest, the Enneagram or your love languages, and discover more about yourself. And then practice communicating your needs to those around you. So even if it's just once this week, just take some time to be like, hey, this is something that I've been recently discovering about myself, and this is a way that you could help me feel better in a certain situation or whatever it may be. Just try at least one time, even you, Raz, if you need to talk to your girlfriend or whatever. This is one thing that you can do to help me feel happy. And then even then you can stretch it to finding out the one thing, or helping them find out the thing that you could help them with, to strengthen your relationship, strengthen your bond, and increase that capacity in your love tank, and help you to drain that mental space, to where you have more mental space in order to be there for others.
Mm-hmm. Oh, trust me, I got 3 CCs, 3 cuddle coupons ready to go as soon as I see her.
And I just put the entire album for that on the Confide Mental Health playlist. If you guys do not have Spotify, the band is called Sleeping at Last, and the album is called Atlas Enneagram. There's 9 songs for each Enneagram type. Go do the Enneagram test. Find out if you're 1 through 9, whichever one. I'm a 4. Jinx is a 3. No, Pack was a 3. Jinx was a 5.
This is for what again?
Lauren's a 2. Rachel's a 9. Acknowledging the people around me, basically. It's the Enneagram test. You're a type 1 through 9. So
gotcha.
You'll find out.
I've already got that started.
Yeah, whenever you do your Enneagram, just answer it. Don't try to answer it like Pack was trying to be over analytical, and he's like, I'm going to answer strongly disagree or strongly agree every one so that it can be more sharp. Don't do that. Just answer honestly how you feel to each question. Find out what type you are, and then go to the Atlas Enneagram. You can just look it up on YouTube if you want and look up the lyrics. But Sleeping at Last is the band. The album's called Atlas Enneagram. They do 1 through 9. It's very interesting because the singer and the one who wrote all the songs is actually a type 9, but the way that they were able to portray each type into a song is insane and incredibly relatable. So I highly recommend that if anyone wants some emotional time to spend with themselves and discover themselves more, that's a really good way to do it. And it's also a good way to spend your time if you're trying to find time to reflect on yourself or spend time on your own to really process things. That can be a really good way to spend 10 to 15 minutes with yourself and really have that time and create more mental space for yourself.
This thing's actually really, really easy to go through as well. For anybody who is considering trying this test out, it's super easy. Each page consists of 5 questions, which has an A or B. It's very, very easy to follow and just answer truthfully. I really like that I just finished page 5 and they're like, hey, you're doing great. Don't hesitate to take a break and think about it. I'm like, wow, these guys are so nice.
It's a good site. They give you a lot of insight. I want to know what type you are.
I mean, I can finish it. So take lead now. Chat, if you guys have any questions, anything you guys want to talk about, please don't hesitate to bring them up. I can't promise that I'm going to be 100% right now because I'm going through this myself.
Yeah, do your shit.
Shoot, anything you got.
And if anyone in chat is doing the Enneagram right now, I see JJ's doing it. Go do it.
Page
Find out
13,
what type you are. Let us know. Jesus, what are you? What type are you? I wish I could play the songs. I could put the lyrics to the songs, but I wish I could play the songs and not worry about getting copyrighted.
Some of these are really tough. I have to sit there and really think about an honest answer because I'm kind of teetering between like right in the middle between some or like both. So it's like, what do I find myself identifying more heavily with?
Raquel said, I never thought about the love languages changing. She said that makes sense. So yeah, I didn't think about it at first either, but the person who brought it up to me with the love languages was a guy that I met at church. He was there for me to listen to a lot of my struggles that I was going through. I didn't even really know him, but he's the one who introduced me to the love languages. And I went through them and really discovered a lot about myself and about Rachel and also about Lauren. I think that there was a lot of comprehension on how to care about other people.
Felt that, JJ.
And so for me, when I messaged him back about it, I was like, yo, this shit's awesome. Like, I really appreciate you showing me this. It's definitely helped me a lot in understanding what I can do better going forward and kind of making sense of why in the past it felt like love didn't exist, even though we were both trying so hard to show that to each other. And so when I had said that, he also made it a point to be like, yeah, it's a good practice to make sure you go back and reassess your love languages at least once a year, if not more, so that you can comprehend how they're changing. He said they can even change with the seasons, which makes a lot of sense because if you think about it, like let's say you're a physical touch person and one of your primary love languages is physical touch, but it's the middle of summer and it's hot as shit outside and you're at a theme park. That is not really a place anyone wants to sit and be hugged or cuddled or whatever because it's hot as shit outside and you're only going to be hotter. So maybe in certain circumstances, like if you're in 100-degree weather at a theme park, them reverting to your other love language, or maybe there's another love language that would make you feel more loved in that situation, like buying a gift or spending quality time. That makes a huge difference in those situations. So like some people don't like physical touch or they don't thrive on physical touch because of how they were raised. Some people were raised with parents or family that never really gave physical touch and they react differently. Some people will react with I don't need it or I don't really want it or care about it, and sex is just sex. But where I find love is striving off of other parts of the relationship. Whereas other people in that exact same situation may be like, well, this was never given to me, so I have a deeper need for it. Everybody reacts to everything differently. And it's important to respect boundaries, but also like if you care about someone, learning to make the sacrifices to provide that love to the people that you care about. So like one big one with that is a lot of people aren't used to gifts being the main love language. So some people can view it or portray it as selfish or materialistic, to be like, oh, you only feel loved when I buy you shit or when but the thing is like gifts doesn't have to be purchasing something. It can also be spending time on something to give to them, whether it be writing a song, writing a poem, writing a story, leaving them a letter, picking them flowers. There's plenty that you can do in the form of a gift that costs you no money. And some people are not good at
so deep.
giving gifts because they weren't raised in a situation where gifts were a big part of their existence. So at that point, and if you need help discovering these love languages or how to handle them, go get the book. For me, I got it on Audible so that I could actually listen to them read and talk about it, because it was just significantly easier than just read or taking the time to read it, because when I'm at work, I'm able to listen to it. But he talks about these things, like he'll give you examples of how you can provide this. Or if you don't know how to buy a gift for someone, he'll be like, reach out to their best friend or to their mom or their sister, and they're guaranteed to know more about buying them a gift than you did if you're struggling with that side of things. And then comprehending, I think one big thing for me is a lyric from Mac Miller. He says, thought is love's currency. So whenever you're taking the time to try to show love to those around you, whether it's a friend, spouse, family member, put a lot of thought into whatever it may be, whether it be quality time or a gift or physical touch, whatever it may be. Put thought into it, because physical touch can be different with more thought put into it. There's things that you can do to provide that in a way that's normally not provided. Like a lot of people don't, like men don't go out and get manicures or pedicures.
I agree, JJ. JJ just said I'm getting anxious the further I get into this. I'm on page 18. I'm like, oh my god, am I overthinking these questions? This is getting heavy.
Deep breaths. It's not that deep, I promise. It's you'll be happy in the end when you see what you are. Jesus is a type 1. I'm going to put you on blast real quick, Jesus, and look into type 1. In brief, they're conscientious and ethical with a strong sense of right and wrong. They're teachers, crusaders, and advocates for change, always striving to improve things, but afraid of making a mistake. Well organized, orderly, and fastidious. They try to maintain high standards, but can slip into being critical and perfectionistic. They typically have problems with resentment and impatience. At their best, wise, discerning, realistic, and noble, can be more morally heroic. Basic fear is of being corrupt or evil or defective. Basic desires to be good, to have integrity, to be balanced. That makes sense. I feel like in a lot of ways you are consistently advocating for change in positive ways while also applying your humor to bring that change into situations. So like a situation can be really hard to come by, or there could be a really negative situation, or like, for instance, one thing I've noticed is when a certain toxic person, whoever, I'm not going to name any names, but if there's someone that comes in a chat being toxic, you have this innate ability to change the atmosphere or the vibe with your sense of humor. So like they could be coming off as really toxic and really like making a situation uncomfortable, and then you show up and will put your sense of humor into it or your comedy, and it completely turns the vibe around and it makes everyone feel better. That's like a really big thing, and I know you're conscious of that when you do it. I know it's not just like, oh, I'm just doing this. You know, you know you're bringing about that change. And yeah,
I'm
Lauren,
a type 7.
You're a type 7. Read what it says about type 7.
All right, so type 7, or excuse me, you are type 7. Motivated by the need to be happy and plan enjoyable activities, to contribute to the world and to avoid suffering and pain. Lighthearted, generous, outgoing, caring, and fun. Enjoys introducing friends and loved ones to new experiences and adventures. Frequently juggles several careers or jobs at once. Quick-minded and able to learn new things quickly. Commonly radiates joy and optimism and expresses childlike astonishment and experiences like as a gift. Relaxed, full of good humor, imaginative, sunny, playful, with the disarming kind of charm.
What do you think about that?
I feel like I'm a little uncomfortable.
You feel attacked?
Yeah, a little bit. I feel like this is a little weird. So it says the best way to learn about your type in relation to others. Oh wow, you can actually compare it to other people. That's outstanding. That's really cool. And it changes with everything? Oh no. So it says for me, communication, direct and expects others to be, says what is on its mind, spontaneous and lighthearted. My work style is future-oriented, big picture thinking, fast learner, enjoys brainstorming, enjoys changing work environments. Source of conflict, being told what to do, being excluded or missing out. Reaction to conflict, look for positive distractions and avoids conflicts. Yeah, I don't like this website. I feel very vulnerable right now. I'm not comfortable.
Hold on.
A little weird.
I'm gonna put something in your chat for you to read.
Okay. Yeah, that was a little uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of cool. So I feel like it's very relatable in almost every aspect, which is a little strange. Oh, that's long as shit.
Yeah, that's the lyrics to your song. It's not that long. You don't have to read it out loud, but it makes sense though. You being a 7 makes a lot of sense. And yeah, Lauren's the type 2. She's the one who has to break her own bones to mend yours. Which is incredibly true in so many ways. It's cool though. It opens up a perspective for you to really see yourself in a different light and understand yourself.
That was really deep.
I think it applies a lot
Damn.
more emotion when you actually listen to the song and the way they sing it and stuff, because like they do a lot within their art to make it as close to the feeling as possible. So like for my song, they actually, the first one of the first lines is about turning off the lights to feel, essentially. And when they recorded it in the studio, they actually turned off all of the lights in the studio to record that part when he was singing it. And so like they go out of their way to apply as much emotion to everything they can. So it's very interesting to listen to the songs. And it helps you to understand those around you too. Like if someone takes their enneagram and then lets you know what it is, they're revealing, like you said, you felt really vulnerable. They're revealing a lot about themselves without really realizing it. And so like there's so many different personality types in the world, and it's crazy that they can break it down into 9 and that they can feel so accurate, but it's a broad spectrum.
Valentina says she is a 1 as well. Which Jesus is a 1, right?
And JJ's a 1, and Jesus is a 1. Look at all you 1s.
Type 1.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was a little weird. I feel like that's a little accurate.
Yeah, mine is self-aware, sensitive, and reserved. They're emotionally honest, creative, and personal, but can also be moody and self-conscious, withholding themselves from others due to feeling vulnerable and defective. They can also feel disdainful and exempt from ordinary ways of living. They typically have problems with melancholy, self-indulgence, and self-pity. At their best, inspired and highly creative, they are able to renew themselves and transform their experiences. And their basic fear is that they have no identity or personal significance. And their basic desire is to find themselves and their significance. Which is like, to a T, the shit that I struggle with. And I think the basic fear thing, it's crazy to approach that and for them to understand that concept more, because like Jinx read his and Pac read his and everything, and it was just like, wow, like you don't think about what other people are afraid of when you see people that you care about. But if you do know those fears, or you do know those things, it's really it's easier to help them. So like for me, my basic fear being someone without an identity or someone that doesn't have significance. You know, I remember we were talking in one of our previous podcasts how it was really important to me, if I died, to leave behind art to help others
legacy,
and be there. Yeah, some sort of legacy. And that's that identity or that significance behind who I am that I want to exist. And so I think that like hits the nail on the head in understanding myself more. But the thing is you don't think about these things, even about yourself. You know what I mean? We don't take the time to understand our personalities or to understand who we are. And I feel like we could all do so much better with our time in achieving the things we want to achieve if we just took the time to know ourselves deeper and to know how we do things and what we're afraid of and what we can move forward with, you know?
I'm a little shook. That was really weird.
It's a cool thing. It's really, I love it.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite music projects too, is listening to the Enneagram stuff and then showing it to other people and really helping them discover more about themselves.
It definitely plays on a lot of like really big things and helps you really identify more about yourself, because literally when I was reading through it out loud, I was like, wow, like childlike astonishment, that's literally me. Like, things, like,
with your Pokemon cards.
Yeah, Pokemon cards. I was like, oh, this is awkward. But it's cool. It lets you understand and identify more about yourself that you might not have known or that you might have suppressed. And it plays a lot about like focusing on the happiness of others before you focus on yourself type deal. And I think that plays, like you kind of said, like break your own leg to mend another. I think that plays very heavily on the type of person that I can be, which for any other type 7s, that can be super overwhelming because you don't prioritize yourself sometimes. And then when you do, or when you have that time, when you're by yourself, you feel trapped. And that's kind of how I felt this past week on a personal level. Not to get too deep into it, but just to share, like this past week, even though it's been 5 years, 5 years ago, the first week of May, my father passed away. And I took it upon I didn't really take it upon myself. I didn't get much of a choice, but I'm the youngest sibling, or one of the younger siblings. And I had to take control of everything. He passed away in a different country, so I had to get funding to make sure he had a funeral, and we tried to get him back home and do all this stuff. And at the time, I didn't have any money, and
I
my
remember.
older siblings did not want anything to do with this. And it was.
I remember you going through that, and I remember you came to me, and I feel like there was someone else that was with us when you came to me and started talking about it and opening up about it and that struggle. And right around the same time was when I was dealing with a lot of the shit from Blake dying. And so like it was like we both had a deeper comprehension of feeling loss in the situation, so it was easier for both of us to be there. But yeah, to be able to face those things, they make you stronger in the long run. But one thing people don't think about, and this is like such an important thing to comprehend, is anniversaries matter. And that can be a good anniversary or a bad anniversary. They will hit you. You will. It's almost like every single time I hit the anniversary of Kevin's death or Blake's death, even if I didn't remember it by the end of the day, it's realized. You know what I mean? And then it makes that day so much more significant. All the little things pile up into this deeper meaning. And so like,
yeah, absolutely.
I think that taking that time as well, that's a big concept of time, is the anniversaries. If you have friends or loved ones and you know that they're about to go through an anniversary of something significant, just be there. Because there's nothing you can do to change the past. But if they need to vent about it, or if they need a distraction, just be there to try. Krista, I'm a 4, so we'd be vibing. We'd be the sad kids, the poets. It's like most people that are famous poets or songwriters or artists to whatever extent, especially if they're depressionists, are 4s. So it's interesting. And then like I think it's interesting too, because you see, if you go out of your way to start assessing every single person and knowing their enneagrams and stuff, right, and they tell you and share that with you, you start to realize that there's not a common theme. Everybody's so different. Like Raz is the first 7. When I've come to this concept, you're the first 7 that I've met. Pac was the first 3. Lauren was the first 2. Rachel was the first 9. Jesus was the first 1. I hadn't like gone out of my way to figure out, hey, am I like attracted to a specific number? Or is there this natural attraction that the personalities that I'm mixing with are all 5s or all 2s or whatever? And it's not. It's like through your day-to-day walk in life, every single, and this applies to, I was talking about this on a previous podcast, I don't know if it was with you or someone else, but how people are creatures, and you cannot walk into a room and look at someone and be like, oh, they're human, so they're going to be like me, or they're going to react like this, because we have this mindset where you're a person and you look at other people and you're like, okay, so we're basically the same thing when it comes to how we should handle things. People don't comprehend that we naturally have that view, but when you walk into a room, if you start adapting to the concept of us being creatures as opposed to humans, and by that I mean like if you take the difference between a cat and a dog. With a cat, they're very independent. They don't need you unless they want you, and they'll stay the fuck away from you whenever they want and whatever. But with a dog, they tend to want to cling to you, stay next to you, provide that loyalty. That's like, you could be a cat and this person could be a dog, and this person could be a parrot, and this person could be a monkey, for all we know, when it comes to their personality and how they handle their day-to-day, and how they handle their emotions, and how they handle situations they're put in, and take care of the people around them. So if you go into a new relationship, whether it be a friendship, or meeting a new family member or whatever, expecting this person to act like a person, as opposed to being like, wow, this could be a completely different creature than me, and I need to understand that, it'll change your perspective on how you talk to them and how you treat them and how you acknowledge them treating you and everything in between. And so,
I'm a type 9. What's a type 9? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm intrigued.
Rachel's a type 9.
Yep. What do they do?
Type 9. Nines are accepting, trusting, and stable. They are usually creative, optimistic, and supportive, but can also be too willing to go along with others to keep the peace. They want everything to go smoothly and to be without conflict, but they can also tend to be complacent, simplifying problems, and minimizing anything upsetting. They typically have problems with inertia and stubbornness. At their best, they're indomitable and all-embracing. They're able to bring people together and heal conflicts. Their basic fear is loss and separation. Their basic desire is to have inner stability or peace of mind.
And one thing that's really cool now as well, Gar, knowing that you're a 9 and Valentina knowing you're a 1, on your actual little chart, it literally says the best way to learn about yourself is in relation to others. So you can compare the relations between Gar, your 9 to her 1 and vice versa. I think that is really, really cool about this site because you can understand more about the other person while understanding more about yourself at the same time. So I think that's really crazy. I also very heavily, I believe the spirit animal is between a raccoon and a dog. No pun intended and nothing to do with the actual mascot, but high key.
That's something we talked about. Did you watch the last podcast at all?
No.
Go back and watch it. Go back and watch it. It's on YouTube. It's I had one of my friends that's a singer of a band come in, and Stu was a part of it, and we were talking about the effects of animals on mental health. And most people would come in and they're like, "Oh, we're going to talk about how pets help you and blah blah blah." But like, I was completely prepared to bring other aspects, and a big part of that was spirit animals and Native American totems and messenger totems, and how animals can affect you in the day-to-day on that aspect. And everybody was just like like nobody was ready for that conversation because no one even thinks about their spirit animal or comprehends that could be a real thing. And for me, it's just something that I've known, but I've also done a lot of LSD. So it's like, like it was a very different way for me to find out those parts of myself. Right. But, and in Native American culture, most of them do go out and do like peyote in order to figure out their spirit animals, but you don't have to do drugs to figure it out. You can find it through deep meditation. And that's another concept of time. If you want to take the time to discover those things about yourself, do it. That time is not wasted.
So, Sam says, I would love to hear your mate talk about dementia, etc. So the only reason we don't cover topics that involve like actual prescribable medical conditions is because, like, if you missed the disclaimers earlier, we're not medical professionals in any way, shape, or form, nor do we claim to be. We strictly go based on personal experiences and influences and offer opinions and assistance. So for topics that are that specific, we normally would recommend referring to factual evidence, like scholarly articles or any factual evidence that's available online or through libraries as well.
Or we will go out of our way to find a professional willing to come talk about it.
Mm-hmm. We can do that as well.
I do have a friend that has a master's in psychology, and she
there you go.
Does day-to-day. Her job is helping out people that have been through sexual abuse. And so that's a really big, deep, heavy topic that I would not take on my own. But to be able to bring my friend who's a professional would make me a lot more comfortable in being able to bring up a topic like that, and for her to be able to lead that discussion and provide some insight, because you never know who in the community has endured something in life, whether it be with PTSD, dementia, autism, or even sexual abuse, or whatever it may be. But to have a professional be able to put perspective up is much different than having me and Raz or me and Michael put a perspective up. When me and Michael or Raz are talking about things, like you said, we're talking about personal experiences. And if I give techniques or methods to how you can cope with something or help with something. All of those techniques are either from studies that I've done, like actually delving in online, trying to figure out how to cope with things that I've struggled with, or stuff that my therapist has directly given me, which is a professional. So like when we talked about the 3Ds technique, when on the last one with me and Raz, when we were talking about distractions, that was given to me from my therapist. That wasn't just made up on the spot or, hey, you guys can do this. It was actually like a professional was like, hey, this is a technique that you can use to get over obsessive thinking or intrusive thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Grace says, okay, I took that test. First off, a lot of big words. Secondly, I'm a type. I can compare mine to yours.
I think that if we were to try to approach dementia or Alzheimer's and its effect on mental health, it would be a very deep conversation, and I would feel more comfortable having a medical professional that knows the ins and outs before approaching bringing that onto stream. Because me personally, I've never known anyone with dementia or Alzheimer's. I've never been forgotten. I've never had that feeling of talking to someone that I loved and knew most of my life and them not knowing who I am. So first of all, I wouldn't know how that feels. And then second of all, I don't know the ins and outs or factual evidence of what dementia or Alzheimer entails, as far as what it could look like approaching a cure, or what it could look like for this person who has dementia as opposed to this person. Because I'm pretty sure the cases are different, but I've never done the research and I've never experienced it firsthand. So for me to approach a discussion like that, I would want to deal with, or maybe even if I knew someone that worked in a nursing home that has dealt with those things, right? Because then they have firsthand experience and they have a lot more of an ability to be able to be like, yeah, so this happens, or this happens, or this is a really big thing. And like for me, I feel like it's a scary thing to think about, because it doesn't run in my family, but like if it did, I'd have a constant fear of what it's going to be like to grow old and then not remember my life or not remember those I care about. That'd be a constant thing to be afraid of. And so when it comes to those aspects, especially with a sickness like that, it's not something that I could comfortably approach unless I did extensive research and had someone else that was professional be able to approach that topic with me. But it's good. I enjoy people coming up and bringing these topics because it gives me more material, because I consistently am thinking about what can we do on the next episode? What can we do for future episodes? Who can I reach out to be on an episode? So that can definitely, like, I'll try and find someone within that community. My mom was actually a nurse manager for a nursing home. So she probably has a lot of experience with that and knows a lot of the facts. So I could probably reach out to my mom and say, hey, I want to bring you onto a podcast to talk about this. And she'd probably be down to do it. So I'll look into that. And if it does happen, I'll have Raz make sure you know. Sorry, I'm reading comments. I love you, Stu.
I totally just read that out loud and you didn't hear me because I was muted on Discord. I'm an idiot. So,
I didn't hear
sorry
anything.
for the double thing here. So Sam says, I do have a question though. As a med worker with depression, PTSD and whatnot, how do I deal with like death of a patient or a hard situation in work? What kind of advice would you give? And if you need a moment to process, I can kind of start with what I have so far.
With depression, PTSD, and whatnot, how do I deal with death of a patient in hard situations at work? Okay. The very first thing I'm going to tell you, if you have not, seek professional help. If you have not, that is a very common thing in the medical community. Being a medical worker, I can completely play into this and tell you that I've been through it, because I was a caregiver for 2 teenage girls that had arthrogryposis. If you don't know what arthrogryposis is, essentially, as they grow, their joints conjoin, and they eventually can't move, and they can't live. They literally end up dying. Both of them died around age 17 and 18, and I spent a lot of time taking care of them, bonding with them. One of them, her name was Kinsey, and she had never had... I was the first guy caregiver for their family. I was the first one they were ever comfortable with because I was married to Rachel and she worked with them, and I'd been there enough for them to want to hire me on as a full-time caregiver. And so I played a really big role in her life, being the first guy that she's ever really had in her life besides her dad or a family member. And so for her, there was definitely this schoolgirl crush feeling, and she just adored me. And for me, it was a weird situation, but it was something that I was accepting of because it was... nothing was like, I guess, happening, and it was acknowledged, but I was able to apply this sense of happiness in her life before she was gone, being the only guy in her life. And like she took us to a Demi Lovato concert and all kinds of other shit on a day-to-day basis. We'd go to the movies. We went and saw a Spider-Man movie like 4 times, and that's because like her life in a wheelchair and on a breathing ventilator and everything made her unable to do anything besides follow entertainment. And so I was able to bring anime into her life and get her into Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that. And like a lot of my personality rubbed off on her, but then also the ways that she touched me in my life. And so when she passed, it was a very weird concept to grip, because for me, I'd known from the beginning that she was going to die at a young age, that she wasn't going to make it to 20 most likely. And that's just statistically speaking. And so for me, it was really sad, but it was also something that I had previously accepted before getting close to her. Now, when I lost Blake to cancer, it was a much different concept because he wasn't set up for failure from the start. And there was so much he could have done to save himself that he didn't do. And the suffering was the really hard part. It's really hard for me to talk about a lot of the time, but the last month of his life was excruciating pain and embarrassment for him. The way his body morphed and the way he needed help to do everything from changing to going to the bathroom to being washed. Every part of his existence was deteriorating. And he was my best friend, and I was one of the main people there to take care of him, because he didn't have insurance or caregivers or anything. When he needed moved or when he needed something, there was this really big part of embarrassment for him with me seeing him naked. And like we had to really overcome that as well, because no one around him was big enough or strong enough to lift him or take care of him besides me. So I actually kind of had to like sit him down and tell him to shut the fuck up and deal with it, and that I don't care what his dick looks like or anything. And that like being a bro and being a best friend to him, I was like, dude, you got to get over it, because you got to let me help you, because anything that I can do to make you feel more comfortable helps me. And I had to make it more, because the type of person he was, I had to make it more like he felt like he was helping me as opposed to me helping him. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through. And as far as overcoming that loss and that stage of grief, which plays completely into the topic of today, is the fact that healing takes time, processing takes time. And if you're struggling to process the things that you need to process, the biggest thing that you can do is find a professional to help you through that processing, to help you learn how to filter thoughts, and to help you overcome and heal from the things that you are suffering from. Because as a medical caregiver, empathy is a really big part of your existence, and you don't want to lose touch with caring about your patients, because that will affect you more in the long run. So I think when it comes to that aspect and learning how to get over that thing, the best thing you can do is know that you're not alone. Maybe establish a community within the people that you work with as well, and be open to talking about things you need to talk about and letting them talk and you listen as well. And then also just finding therapy. Find a therapist that's good for you and stick with
Even
them.
support groups. Support groups are important as well. There's tons of them for doctors and nurses. My sister's part of 2 of them herself.
It's a very real thing,
Mm-hmm.
especially with COVID. My mom actually reached out to me at one point and was talking about not only lost patients, but coworkers that, like, she lost like 5 coworkers within like the first month of everything that was going on with COVID to COVID. Like, they died because of it. And for her, it was just like really devastating, because my mom's the type of person to get emotionally attached to anyone and everyone around. And so I know that she was going through a lot through that, but she's very strong, and I'm sure she sees a therapist herself for all of those things. But she also was able to open up to me about it. And I think it's important to learn how to share your space with people instead of holding it inside of yourself, which is something that I commonly do, is just hold it inside of myself. But I've been slowly approaching the ability to share with people around me, and just let them know, hey, like, this is some shit I'm going through. And even if they don't have advice for you, getting it off your chest alone can be something that stretches a long distance in your healing.
And if you're on the opposite end of that spectrum as well, don't think you always need to provide an answer or a solution. Just being there and listening and understanding. Welcoming that ability to have somebody confide in you is incredibly and equally as important. You don't need to provide all the answers. You don't need an immediate solution for this person. Just sit back and be there. Be here now. And I think that's extremely important as well.
Okay. This is huge, because you just said that. There is a book for those of you that are not religious but you want to feel more spiritual. I read this in jail. I read it before jail. I read it consistently. It's by a guy named Ram Dass. It's $14 on Amazon. I'll put the link in the chats right now. The book is called Be Here Now. And like, if you're ever at a point where you really need distracted and you just want to look at some trippy shit as well, it's a really good book for that. But there's a lot of deeper meaning behind it. And basically this scientist, so to speak, goes out and trips on mushrooms, but is also going on this huge like journey through Buddhism and journey through religion and understanding love in the world. And the concept of his spirituality is to be here now and not in the future and not in the past. If you haven't ever read this book, I highly recommend picking it up and just going through the pages and reading it. It's an amazing book. It's very fucking trippy, but it's also very eye-opening. And this is the link right here.
And Sam, just know that your feelings are completely valid. 100% valid. It's okay to feel that way. Just don't let... I guess the best thing is to say, because I can't say I'm in that exact perspective, but I've seen the outcomes of what that's like. When you bring that feeling, that emotion home, and you suppress that empathy to be there for the family and be there for the patient as best as you can, know that your feelings are valid and it's okay to feel that way, but know that you need to be able to de-stress as well. If it's talking to a professional or a support group or confiding in your best friend or whatever methodology you need or that you utilize to be able to decompress, you need to be able to do that, because it will eat you alive. And I've seen it firsthand, and how toxic that can be and how toxic of an environment that can create. So definitely make sure you're prioritizing your mental health as well, and you're prioritizing the way that you feel, and you're validating that, because it's okay to feel like that. You can get very emotionally attached to people, and when you lose those people, some people can brush it off and say it's a part of the job, and it's a hard job. Medicine is an incredibly difficult job. Your feelings are valid, and it's okay. Let yourself feel.
Don't ignore them, for sure.
It's only going to get worse if you do. You're not benefiting anybody by suppressing it and keeping it. And that goes for anyone and everyday problem. Don't hold it in. Ahem. Talk to the people around you if you need to. And don't be afraid to be vulnerable with people. The thing about your past, too, man, is it's the past. It doesn't define who you are now. Don't let it. Who you want to be tomorrow is entirely your choice, and it starts with the decisions you make today. And that is the one thing about life and time that I think is so incredibly powerful. So who you were 10 years ago does not define who you are sitting in front of us right now. And who you want to be 24 hours from now, 72 hours from now, 7 days from now, 7 years from now. You get that power. That's your power to control and decide who you want to be. That's as simple as that. I can never validate my emotions. It'd be hard sometimes, and that's okay. You know, not a lot of people can come to terms with being able to openly talk about and understand the way that they feel, or say that, you know what? Yeah, I don't know. And that's okay if you don't know. I'm not saying that actually, but in that situation, like, I don't know how I'm feeling. I can't understand the way I'm feeling. That's okay. But vocalize it. Like, I regularly say, like, when I was talking to my buddy just a few days ago and he broke down, he's like, I don't even know. And I said, that's okay. Like, just say what comes to mind. Let yourself feel. Your emotions are valid. It's okay to feel that way. Tell me how you're feeling. It doesn't have to make sense, so long as it makes sense to you, because I'm here for it. And that's what's important. If you're on both sides of that spectrum, if you're the speaker or the receiver, validate your emotions. Just say what comes to mind if you don't know how to put that into words.
Yeah, Raquel said, I understand it's okay to feel. I just hate that I have a hard time bouncing back, like I dwell in my feelings. I'm learning how to deal with the feelings and let them go. Okay, so you never want to let go of the feelings, but learning to transfer the thoughts into positive ones and understand what you can and can't control is a really big part of being able to process and spending time in those emotions. That was something that I think it was the first podcast me and Raz did that we covered really hardcore, knowing how to filter and get away from, like, knowing when is a good time for yourself to sit in your feelings and when is a good time to distract yourself from them. It's a hard line to identify because a lot of
some people haven't established that either, and that's okay if you're not at that level yet too. I just wanted to add that as well. Well, some people might go ahead.
You're gonna fuck up too, though. Like, nobody's perfect. Even if you feel that you've established it, there might be times where you're like, I'm going to sit in my feelings. And that is not the best time to sit in your feelings, but it happens.
Fuck no.
You know? And then there's times where you're like, I'm just going to spend all of this time distracting myself from my emotions. And then you spend so much time distracting yourself that a moment will come where you're at a wedding or an important event, or you're out in public, and then all of a sudden all of your feelings flood you because you've been distracting yourself too long. It's important to feel what you're feeling and to take all of the time that you need to feel them. Don't feel like you have to heal fast or rush fast through these emotions. Take your time, and bouncing back isn't always necessary. Like, you don't have to just, like, if you're feeling something and you feel it all day, then you feel it all day. If you feel it for a week, then you feel it for a week. Don't think that because you're not bouncing out of that emotion that it makes the situation any worse. It's important to comprehend how you feel and to understand those feelings and understand the thought process. And if you're struggling to overcome, like, let's say with depression or whatever it may be, anxiety, you're struggling to overcome those feelings when you want to, that's where you identify the problem. Is because, like, if you're feeling sad and you don't want to feel sad, but you just keep feeling it and keep feeling it, first off, as we always say, go get professional help. Second off, there's other ways to approach those feelings. For me, a big part of those feelings are listening to music. I can play Mac Miller and feel better almost any day of the week. It's just something for me that hits, like, his music, especially if I play the Swimming or the Circles album, it just hits me in a way that makes me realize that that I can just take things step by step and that it will get better.
Take your time.
But there's other things, like art is a huge thing. So like we had a viewer in Raz's stream a while back that brought up how Star Wars affected him. And that, dude, use those things to your advantage with your emotions. Those are weapons. Those are tools to battle when you're feeling sad and you don't want to feel sad. Use those to destroy those feelings, to get rid of those feelings in those moments. So like for me, one big thing that I've been struggling with was my ability to stop thinking about the past and the future because I can't control them, and to just be in the here and now because that's the only thing I can control. And I was having so much issues like, man, what if this happens to the future? What if this happens? Or, oh, wow, this happened in the past. You know, and it just kept popping up in my head. And I was actually just like scrolling through my Facebook feed, and the scene from Kung Fu Panda was just a random like meme where the turtle's talking to I don't even remember the panda's name at this point. I'm a piece of shit for that. Yeah, whatever. Poe. They're sitting on a mountain and the turtle's like,
Master
he
Shifu.
said, yesterday is history, the future is a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. And I actually took the picture and saved it because A, I like really loved Kung Fu Panda, but B, it helped me in that moment to accept that I needed to be in the now and stop thinking about the past or the future, and to just be where I'm at and do what I need to do in the moment to make myself happy. And another one for me, and a lot of people can relate because we talk about anime a lot and our passion for anime and how anime helps us. I was watching the new Invincible show on Amazon. If anyone hasn't seen that, I highly recommend it. It's only 8 episodes and it's brutal and it's fucking awesome. But have you seen it, Raz?
I'm on Jujutsu Kaisen right now. I'm on a kick with that.
Okay, well, basically a lot of bad shit happens to one of the main characters, and at the end there's this alien talking to him, and he basically kind of explains how there's a lot of people in the universe that are working against this bad thing, and that he is a primary hope to overcome that bad thing, right? And so at one point he says, I actually have it saved in my phone, because he smiles when he's told that, and the alien's like, how... like, why are you smiling right now? When you've been through so much. And, like, because, like, he was facing a lot of betrayal in the situation. And just a lot of tragedy. Like, a lot of deaths and a lot of shit. And he said, just thinking about what I've been through and how huge it all feels, but the fact it's such a small part of something so much bigger just makes it feel better. And I reflect back on that line. I've reflected on it so many times this week, just because, like, I'll be feeling all of these things from the past, and it just weighs heavy on my shoulders, and I feel like I can't pick it up, or I can't lift it, or I can't carry it to the places I need to carry it to. And then I stop and think about how much bigger everything else in my life is, and the journey that I'm going on is, and how much more there is to my purpose in this world, and it makes that really heavy thing feel small, and it makes me feel better about it because it's such a like big but small part of existence. You know, like it may be something really big, but in time that pain will die down, and although there will always be a scar, as everyone knows, when you get fucked up physically and you get the scar in the long run, that scar doesn't affect you near as much as the pain when you currently had the wound. And so eventually time will heal the wound, but also the journey is so much bigger than whatever it is you may be going through. And just acknowledge that and take your journey day by day and live in the moment and do the things in the moments that you feel will make you happy.
So real quick too, one of the things that Jesus said earlier is like sometimes when you're driving, and you're just so deep in thought, you realize you're home and you have no idea how you got there. That's actually referred to as highway hypnosis. It's a very factual thing. But the reason why a lot of people, when they're feeling a very particular way, or if they're feeling very deep in their emotions or need to clear their head, driving, though it can sometimes be dangerous, can be a very helpful tool because you have a one-track mind. You're focusing so deeply on the road to start that thought process, and you're minding the speed limit, watching where you're going, and you have a goal in mind, which is to get home from a long day, right? While you're cruising through, once you've already established your goal and you meet a certain ends where the rest of it just automatically maps, you go into autopilot. When that happens, all that's happening in here is that you're finally allowing yourself to validate your emotions and feel what you've been needing to feel. So it all hits you at once because everything, your whole path is now clear. There's no other factors that are bothering you. And a lot of times, if you listen to some really great music, that can end up really influencing that behavior. Now, what Justin said, holding stuff in isn't going to help, that's 100% truthful. The more you suppress this emotion and don't allow yourself to feel, the worse it's going to be later on. So even for me, I love going on really long drives. And like when I go 13 hours to go see Grace as an example, I absolutely love it. It sucks. It's exhausting. But I have all this time to myself to just think and feel and understand that it's very, one, draining, but two, relaxing. And I know that I get really, really good rest because there's nothing else that's been bothering me. And much like others, I go into a deep hole, hitting everything from a, why did I wear these shoes, to a, should I really have graduated sooner, to why haven't I ever done this with my life? You know, your mind can just go very deep places and deeper into that hole. But the fact of the matter is, when you're in that position, like we were talking about earlier, you are here now. You're in there. You are focusing on everything and validating the way that you feel. And that's so important. So if driving is the way that you validate and you understand and process, great. Now, if some of you have other methodologies like Kaz does with music or myself with video games, those distractions can be very helpful. And I don't want to get too much into distractions. If you guys want to watch the distractions episode, we talked about that, I think last week or maybe 2 weeks ago.
I'll post
we did almost a 3.5 hour, I think, roughly, podcast strictly on distractions. Find what helps you have that validation of control and allow yourself to just be vulnerable for a second with yourself, if not with another person, and feel. Even if you can't understand or vocalize how you feel to another person, take the time to process yourself and understand the way that you're feeling. What works for me is fishing. Absolutely. It's extremely calming. I love fishing. I think it's so very calming because all you're focused on is getting that big catch. And the process of doing that is so very rewarding that you're allowing yourself to just relax and feel and think about the week, think about the way you're feeling, and understanding that you have a bigger goal in mind. So I think that's important. But yeah, so take time to process, whatever that may be. Take time to process and understand the way you're feeling and validate that. All your feelings are valid. And don't think you're offending other people when you're not vocalizing that.
And it takes everyone a different amount of time.
Exactly. We all process differently. And if you don't process at all, that's okay too, so long as you're finding ways to decompress and just straight up feel. And again, seek professional help if you need it. You're not alone. This is not a fight you have to be in alone. That 1,000-pound weight on your chest can be very easily distributed to the people around you if you allow them in to help you. Excuse me. Something in my throat there. Kaz.
Jesus put some lyrics in my chat about being a fixer. He posted some song lyrics, basically the concept of putting yourself on the back end to help other people with their problems, and how you can lose grip on taking care of yourself. That's a very real thing. If you struggle with that, just really try to focus on yourself. It's something that I struggle with myself. I push my shit inside of myself and solve it myself, and I don't like to give it to other people. But I will always, always, always put myself on the line to take care of anyone, regardless of the time of day. Even if I'm in the middle of stream, there's times where I've shut down my stream when someone's needed me, just to be a listening ear. And so I think it's advice that all of us could take in a lot of ways, where it's important that you need to take care of yourself just as much as that need of you wanting to take care of other people should also be for yourself, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of others. You genuinely can't. And the thing with Jesus and that driving thing and then just showing up and everything, that's also a concept of disassociating, which is a very normal thing for humans to go through. It's something I just posted a Facebook thing about it earlier that I saw. It was like when you're sitting in the shower and then you forget if you washed yourself or not, or if you've just been sitting there disassociating the entire time. So you wash yourself all over again just to make sure.
Done it.
It's the same concept. It's basically like there's times where you're going to be going through so much shit, and this is the way my therapist put it. And this is why distracting was so important, is because even though you think you can multitask or you think you can do so many things at once, your brain can only process one thought at a time. So even though you might be on autopilot washing your body, if you're thinking about something else and disassociating from that, that's why you don't even recognize if you washed your body or not, because your brain can only think about one thing at a time. And that's normal for every single human being. And that's why it's important to take the time to process your emotions and your feelings. Because when you're thinking about those emotions and feelings, that's all you're thinking about. And that's why it can get hard to get out of that mental space and get out of that sadness or that hole. But I'm just going to say what Raz said. Go to the YouTube playlist and look up there. It's literally titled Distractions. So like we title all of them based on the concepts. The Distractions episode has a list. We go through a large list of things that we do to distract ourselves in the processes of filtering and how to handle decompressing and getting away from feeling things, because it is healthy to distract yourself in healthy ways. And it is important to be able to do those things. Stu said he finished and he's a 3. You and Pack both, Stu. That's funny. Everybody out here doing their Enneagrams now.
Sam says, I've hidden stuff as much as I can because of what happened when I opened up the last time. I had a panic attack and just got judged. So when you're dealt with a situation like that, or if you feel very nervous when confiding in another individual or the people around you, know that there's so many other resources and people you can talk to that are judgment-free zones. If you feel the fear of being judged, the thing I always like to put in perspective is, are you really surrounding yourself with the best people then? And you have to consider that as well. When you're processing your feelings and understanding that, you're prioritizing your mental health for once, you really have to keep in mind the environment and the people that you're surrounding yourself with as well. And that's something we haven't technically covered, which we definitely should in an upcoming podcast. I think that'd be really helpful.
What's that?
I've had just dealing or surrounding yourself with the right group of people, or how to identify toxic relationships and situations and stuff like that. I think that'd be a really good topic. So Sam, stay tuned for that, man. Because I can speak so heavily on that situation and really connect on a deeper level with that. But know that if you're being judged, you're surrounding yourself with the wrong people. 1,000%. And
I think it's also important to...
Fact checks.
We're going to start closing this out because we're hitting that 2.5 hour mark.
It's good.
Me and Raz both have streams planned for tonight to actually play video games and do our thing. Everyone that has come in and dedicated time, we appreciate you and we love you. I think one thing that I really appreciate about this every single week is I'm seeing so many different faces coming in everyone's stream. So like tonight, I'm seeing people that I've never seen before that are in here inputting things, and you're helping us do what we do, because a lot of the times we'll fall into a silent space and we'll be able to look at chat and be like, oh, this person said this, and we'll be able to bounce off of that and move forward with the conversation. And it helps us more than you know. But also to hear your guys' positive words. When you come in and you say, man, I needed to hear that, or this is helping me so much, or whatever, it does more than you know for me and Raz and Michael and anyone else that may be on the show, to be able to feel like we're serving a purpose or a higher need. And that makes me motivated throughout the week to be like, man, what are we going to do next week? What's going to be the next podcast? How are we going to move forward with this? How can we help people in ways that we haven't? And I really appreciate everything you guys do. If this podcast has helped you a lot, please go sub to my YouTube. That's where we're posting them right now. Eventually we'll put it on Spotify and Apple Music, but for right now it's just on a playlist on my YouTube. And make sure you follow Team Confide on Facebook. We also stream it to that every single week, and that's how you'll be able to see everyone in Team Confide. One big thing about us is our ability to confide in each other and to provide a space for you guys to confide in. That's one thing that this team thrives on. That's what we're here for. Like, nobody on the team streams to make money. Nobody on the team streams for the wrong reasons. Every single person on Team Confide is here to provide a space for you guys to be here, to come in and have a non-judgmental area to exist and feel better about yourself. Or like if you're going through a long day of work and you just need to laugh at Jinx's stupid ass looping a killer, that's why we stream. That's what we're here for, and that's what we want to be here for. But if you ever come into a Confide member stream and you're struggling, it is a safe space for you to bring that up and to bring that to us. We will always be welcoming, and anyone that comes in and shuts that shit down will not be a part of our communities. And that's a guarantee that all of us can put forward. We're not going to sit here and watch someone invalidate your emotions or your feelings or what you're going through mentally. And so definitely look into Confide if you haven't already. Follow all of the streamers. Find, we're all very different human beings. You're going to find the people in Confide that you thrive with, that push you forward every single day.
Absolutely.
And you can join in on these communities and be a part of our Discord discussions. Me personally, I do a lot of movie nights. I do a lot of TV show stuff. We'll watch anime. We'll all video chat. Even if I'm playing a different kind of game, a lot of the times I'll be in my Discord for anyone that wants to come in and hang out and talk or be a part of the content. And there's always a safe space for everyone to be
Absolutely.
here. And then also, for those of you that do need music to lean on, I have pinned the Spotify link to our Confidecast mental health playlist for those of you that did your Enneagram and are interested in hearing the song off of your Enneagram. I just put it all on the playlist. And for those of you that have been through anything at all, whatever emotion these things have helped you feel, if you have a song that makes you feel happy, if you have a song that makes you feel your sadness or get over your anger or your anxiety or whatever it may be, throw it on the playlist. That small act of kindness that you're doing is helping more people than you know. I have actually had people reach out to me about how much the playlist has already helped them, and it's only been like 4 or 5 weeks or 6 weeks maybe. And there's people that are like, man, that like helps me daily to go listen to the playlist and really have music that can help them through certain emotions or certain things they're going through. So definitely go to the playlist, add stuff to it, and take the homework that we gave you, thrive on it, find out your Enneagram, find out your star charts, find out your love language, take 5 minutes to yourself, and take that shit and run with it.
I'd also say too, if there's any specific situations, like if you've ever wondered what are helpful tips for distractions or how to deal with difficult situations, prior to Confidecast, on my side, I call them coffee talks. I've covered situations very similar with factual evidence, scholar articles, usually quotations from those people as well. If you have any questions about those, I have it linked on my channel. I don't have it on YouTube. If you want our main conversations, they've all been recorded on Kaz's YouTube, but mine are on my Facebook page if you're looking for something more detailed and specific. If ever you guys have recommendations or things that you're going through that you'd like to share or bring up anonymously with a new topic, please don't hesitate to let me know, Kaz know, or anybody in Confide know as well. We'll definitely bring it to our attention. But yeah.
All right. Love you guys. Everyone that's in here, we do have love for you. You're not alone in whatever you're going through. If this has triggered anything or you're going through anything right now and you need someone to talk to, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I know, like right now, I have a lot of mental space open. I don't know about Raz, but I've done a lot of draining this week and been able to take on a lot more space. So if anyone is going through anything, I have open ears and I'm here for anyone that needs it. We're gonna move into playing video games now. I think Rise is going to play Fortnite, and I'm gonna go play Valorant with Stu. So everybody,
as always, guys, thank you
vibe out.
so much for your time. It's incredibly valuable. You'll hear me say it in a second. Thanks for hopping on once again, Kaz. Later, skater.